Hey there, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to a new episode of Fearless and Free Living in Your Face Conversations with Tenya Moravec. I hope you are all doing well. Happy Memorial Day weekend here in the U.S. And I hope maybe you're out enjoying some outdoors. I know here it's a beautiful day, so maybe you're out camping or doing something fun. I hope so. But I still wanted to come on here and talk to all of you or have a conversation, hopefully a really great conversation about something that's very prevalent and happening right now, and that is the reopening, even the slow reopening of states, this post-quarantine current COVID situation. And so I thought it would be relevant to talk about how to navigate that, how to navigate returning to life, as I call it, post-quarantine. Now, for some of you, you have been out there, essential workers, you've been out there like doing the thing, and it's not a normal life out there either. There's been a lot of stress and anxiety about that as well. But for many of us, myself included, we've been here at home, really kind of just hunkered down for the last 2 months. And so for some people, some states have started to reopen, some faster than others. I'm here in Washington State, and so for the most part, most of our state is still in phase 1, very slow reopening, and maybe, I don't know, a dozen or so counties in my state have moved to phase 2. My particular county is still in phase 1 because we still seem to have new cases of the coronavirus popping up. So I thought, though, it would be very relevant to talk about this. And this isn't about, like political ideology. This isn't about my or your opinion about whether or not we should be reopening. The fact of the matter is there are many states that are opening and businesses are coming back to life, people are going back to work, and there's a lot of fear and anxiety about that. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today. So this started out to be just a one episode, one show topic, and as I was preparing for it and going over tips and reminders and all these different things, I realized this is going to be a lengthier conversation. So it's actually going to be a 2-part series. So today is part 1. Next week is part 2. If you are also, before I get too ahead of myself, if you're on, say hello. Yes, hi. Oh, hi, Mom. Say hello. Let me know you're here. Also, I would love to hear, I don't want to get necessarily into a political discussion. Actually, what you could share with me in the comments is what state are you in, or even what country are you in, and where you live, have they started to reopen? Now, I know many of you that might follow me are here in Washington State as well, but I do know that I've got followers from all across the U.S., Canada, UK, different parts of the world, and all of you, I greatly appreciate you for following this page. But drop a comment. Let me know where you're at and where your home or your state, country, whatever, is at in the reopening process. Have you gone back to some sort of life, as I call it, where you're at? So, but before I get into the tips and the reminders, I did want to just acknowledge like what is happening around, the anxiety around returning to life, to work, and all these things back that are opening back up. So first things first, recognize that yes, there is anxiety around reopening. A lot of people are excited about it, but a lot of people have a lot of fear about it, and rightly so, perfectly normal. This hasn't just been a traumatic moment. This has been chronic stress. This is a traumatic experience, a series of events. I mean, just day in, day out, being inundated with news and updates, and is this information correct? Is this information incorrect? What's right? What's wrong? All this kind of stuff. So this has been chronically traumatic. There's a lot of fear about many things. There's fear about the impact on the economy, people being able to provide their livelihoods, but there's also a lot of fear about going back out there and contracting the virus, about keeping family members and keeping themselves safe, their health, their well-being. There's a lot of extreme reactions to both reopening and staying in quarantine. There's a lot of reactions and anxiety that's also from having to wear masks all the time or seeing other people in masks and all of this being required and just that sort of like constant like woodpeckering, if you will, at the psyche. The financial burdens are very real. in the individual homes and families as well as the economy as a whole. You know, there's also the current or the very real struggle of burnout, being burned out while in quarantine, because many of you are maybe your parents, teachers, and or you're just your parents and having to become teachers. So you're trying to teach your kids, you're trying to still do your job, you're trying to maintain your household, being a productive worker, and having all of these things happen, like, so burnout at home. There's also, of course, burnout if you've been an essential worker and you're working more hours than before, or, you know, people are, I know that in some cases they were allowing people that were in the older age bracket to opt out of working and go either work from home or to take that time off, because at the beginning of all this, they were the ones that were at higher risks. And so your workforce may be reduced. You might be having to pick up the slack for other people that are either ill or are not at work because of the potential risk of contracting the virus. So there's a lot of burnout is a real issue. Now, symptoms of stress that maybe you are aware of, chronic stress, or maybe you weren't aware of, I want to make you aware of those, and then we'll get into some of the tips. So you might have noticed a change or a disruption in your sleeping patterns, your sleeping habits. I know there was a lot of times for me off and on that I was restless, or I didn't feel like I slept the whole night through, or I just tossed and turned. A lot of that, again, comes from the lingering fears and anxieties and chronic stress that we have been under, and just the inundation of news updates and who has it and who's tested and what's going on here and what about this country and what are the case numbers. I know this is another one I experienced, change in eating habits. The first week at home, I was like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to meal prep because I'm home, I can make my food. And so what I discovered as a result was I was eating all the time, just constantly snacking, grazing, eating, even when I wasn't hungry, or even after I had, you know, all of my typical amount of food for the day. And then I started meal prepping to try and combat that. And then I realized I was still like just constantly eating, constantly thinking about food. And so my eating habits definitely changed, and it took a lot of work, like multiple attempts and, you know, almost this whole 2 months to really start to feel like I'm getting a handle on things again. This is a big one. Lack of focus, not being able to concentrate, especially if you're somebody who, like me, like you have to work from home and you're still trying to show up for meetings and get things done, and you just struggle with keeping that focus and trying to work. Not only that, but just the physical interruptions and not being able to focus because someone keeps coming into your workspace or your office, or, you know, you've got kids or spouse or whatever. It's a very real struggle. You might have also either experienced or had maybe family or friends that experienced a decline in physical health, and not necessarily because they had the coronavirus, but because of the chronic stress they were under, it weakened their immune system, and they might have had colds or flus or stomach bugs, or, you know, maybe pre-existing conditions got worse. Definitely saw a decline in mental health. Again, stress, anxiety, fear, all of this. I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record a little bit, but that's because all of these things are all interconnected. They're all woven in with one another. And then, of course, an increase in the use of alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, just substance abuse. I would say even, again, with the eating, like kind of relying on substances or food to try and comfort or deal with that stress. So we saw an increase in that, and it's still happening, of course. Some of it was attributed to boredom, but a lot of that, I think, is attributed to maybe unrecognized anxiety. So, okay. So let's talk about some of the tips, some reminders, things to just keep in mind. And then we'll conclude part 1, and then we'll finish up with tips and reminders for part 2, and then I'll probably even direct you to some resources as well. So I would also love to hear, though, maybe if you're willing to share, you can drop in the comments, have you experienced any of these things? Have you experienced a change in sleep, or a change in eating, or lack of focus, or, you know, what has been some of the struggles you've recognized, and maybe some of the things that you have done to help yourself get through those, or maybe you're still trying to get through them. But I would love to hear some of your ideas, some of your feedback as well. Okay, so just remember, these are now moving into the tips and reminders. Just remember that we are not in a sprint, obviously. Hopefully you've picked up on that by now, because we're in 2 months of this at least. And so this is not a sprint. You need to get into that marathon mentality that we're in this for the long haul, that even though quarantine almost happened, it seemed like overnight, that the returning to a life of some kind of resemblance of what we once knew is going to be a slow process. The reopening is going to be a slow process. So just remember that. This is not a sprint. Don't expect things to just happen overnight. Remember that we are in this for the long haul. If you are going back to work, start communicating with your manager, your supervisor, or your boss, your HR, whoever it is. Start communicating with them about your concerns. Don't be afraid to speak up. It's very important that you communicate clearly, that you are that you're really talking to them about your concerns, why you might be feeling worried about coming back, and then also talk to them about maybe creating just sort of a general transitional timeline, as far as, okay, like I'm going to start coming back into the office twice a week, or some workplaces have actually started kind of doing a rotation in terms of when their employees are coming in, so that way not everybody's in the office at the same time, and they can keep that social distancing in effect. And yes.
Can I join your show for a moment? I heard some things that I would like to share.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. I haven't been on your show in a while.
Well, because you didn't want to be.
I know. Hey, everybody. Whoa, it's backwards. That's weird. This side's backwards.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? You know, I was listening to her. I'm painting, so I was outside the door and I could hear her talking.
This is Gary, my husband,
yeah.
For those of you who don't know.
Anyways, she was mentioning, you know, about what you mentioned about protecting yourself at work and so on, stuff like that. Yeah. People are forgetting a very key protection area. I've seen so many people. One, the people that aren't thinking and wear their masks like this and, you know, let their nose out, which is stupid. There's this, which is good and all.
Hi, Mary.
But what about these? People forget about your eyes. You got to protect your eyes as well. When somebody sneezes, it doesn't just come onto your face here. It gets into your eyes. So wear, you know, I do. Every time I go in, I wear clear glasses or my sunglasses or something like that. Keep my eyes covered. That's one way to help protect. And then you were also mentioning about like anxiety around all of this and stuff. She lives with a germaphobe, obsessive compulsive freak. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not a freak. He
struggles with OCD.
But I struggle a lot with this whole thing. And I will be the first one to admit that when we first started the COVID and stuff, I didn't take it seriously. I was just like, it's just another flu. Wash your hands. That's the wrong side. Wash your hands, wash your butt, you know, keep yourself clean and stuff, and you'll be good. And
I want to know, washing your ass, that is a all the time thing, not just because we're in the coronavirus.
Right. Yeah. But anyways, keeping things clean and stuff. And then, you know, as it started to kind of pick up speed and start rolling forward, I started realizing, holy shit, this isn't one of those just seasonal flus. This is something that's serious. And I started noticing too that like the people that are not taking it serious are putting the people who take it serious at risk, because they just don't believe it. They just don't see it. They say, well, you know, the H1N1 killed, you know, 63,000 people in a year. This has killed 90,000 people in 3 months. So that kind of woke my brain up and went, holy crap, I gotta start not only protecting myself, but protecting the people that are around me, and making sure that asymptomatic people, make sure they're covered. If we all play by the rules, it'll be over soon. And if you've ever seen me, know who I am, people that are out there know that I don't like playing by the rules, but this time I'm gonna play by the rules. This isn't an American Constitution thing. This isn't a freedom thing. This is a safety thing. If we go back too early, we'll spike again. Maybe, you know, hurt people that we didn't mean to hurt. Her uncle is he had COVID. He was diagnosed with COVID.
Full disclosure, he's also in prison.
Yeah. But he has diabetes, and it was dangerous for him. One of our good close friends, Johnny, he had COVID-19, and he lives right out here in Yakima, or he worked out at Yakima, and he lives out in Toppenish somewhere, White Swan. But that's the thing is, there's a lot of times where we don't acknowledge it until it hits home. This time, we don't have that luxury of waiting for it to hit home. We have to make sure that we protect everybody else's homes. So there are people around us that are getting it. Also, Yakima is the highest rate right now in COVID cases. It's going through the agricultural industry because they can't wait. So, it's rising. I'm just saying, please, take this seriously. And then once it's over, it's over. And then we can go back to whatever our new normal is going to be. But believe me, it's hard for me. We get into, I kind of get...
We started calling me the Gary Whisperer.
Yeah, the Gary
Whisperer.
Good reason. Because I am, I do. My anxiety jumps out. My germophobia jumps out. And then, the next thing you know, like I'm screaming at somebody in Walmart because they're closer to me than 6 feet. So there are people out there that are like me that, we ask you for help. We ask you for compassion. We ask you for, understanding that we are scared. And there are people out there that are scared. So, that's kind of something else you can make sure you do. Remember, we're all in this together. So, but I just wanted to jump in here and just kind of throw that out there. Like I said, I'm kind of, I get anxious easily and freak out. But everybody be safe. Protect your eyes. I'm serious. That's 32% of COVID cases are contracted through the eyes. So that's something we need to cover. Go to work with those safety glasses on.
Okay, I'm just going to say that we are not doctors, nor are we the CDC, so I have avoided giving statistics because I don't have the data and the research.
Okay, well, the CDC and me reading things obsessively, they're saying protect your eyes.
Okay, well, I'm just going to always say...
And I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm just saying, for human sake, cover your eyeballs. So, anyways, thank you for letting me interrupt.
Okay. Let's get back to the tips here, and then we'll talk about some of your comments that I see coming in. So, okay. So we were talking about communicating with your bosses, managers, that sort of thing. Talk to them about maybe creating a general timeline. Like I said, some offices are already practicing that where they have people coming in rotation, so that way not everybody is in at the same time. So, and then, of course, remember, this is probably an important reminder, is just to remember that everyone, other people, other businesses, we are all navigating the same struggles that you are. Now, we may not experience the exact same things, but in terms of experiencing some of the fear and anxiety and even some of the questions and unknowns around returning to life and slowly reopening, just remember that you are not the only person in this. Like he said, we are all in this together. So the more that we have compassion and consideration for others, patience with ourselves, patience with other people, the easier time we will have in the transition back into life. Give yourself grace. Extend yourself more patience, more grace than you ever have before. I've been saying this since the quarantine began, especially to a lot of you out there who might be parents or you are caregivers for people in your family. You need to give yourself more grace than normal. And I'm not even going to say more than normal, because a lot of people, sometimes myself included, we sort of suck at giving ourselves grace. So we need to give ourselves more grace now than I will say ever before. So just realize that we're experiencing challenges that we've never experienced before. So, and then finally, my last tip for part 1, remember there will be part 2 next week, so make sure you come back for that conversation. But my last tip or reminder is, if you are in the position of you owning, like our small businesses, our small business owners, and you're in that position and returning to life and business and all that kind of stuff, start reaching out to your customers and, let them know what your reopening plans might look like and what that's going to look like for them and things that you are available to do for them and what you can't yet. communicate with them so that way they at least know. And that's also a really great way, side note on businesses, or business tip, is it's also a really great way to build up even stronger relationships with those customers, because they appreciate knowing what's happening with some of their favorite businesses. So, okay, so those are the tips and reminders for part 1. So make sure that you tune in next week, Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time, for part 2. Just thank you for watching. I see a couple of comments on Facebook, so thank you for that. And then, of course, on Instagram, if you're going to get sick, the mask and gloves are not going to protect you at all. Here's what I will say about that. I saw this really great meme once, and although it was funny, it was also true. So it was a meme about masks, and it was actually like, okay, so it had these visual images. So bear with me, because this might be a little graphic. So think about somebody walking around with no pants, just, their junk all hanging out, no protection at all. And then thinking about that same person walking around now with pants on. A little bit more protection. Actually, I think the meme was, okay, so if you are not wearing any pants, and no one's wearing pants, and someone else pees on you and you're not wearing any pants, there's no protection at all. Now, imagine that they aren't wearing pants, you're wearing pants, they still pee on you, there's a little bit more protection. Now, imagine that you are both wearing pants. They still try to pee on you, but guess what? It's all caught within their mask. That's the utmost level of protection there. Now, I know that's not super scientific, but it kind of gives you that visual. Really, the masks, because we're not using all the same medical grade that hopefully hospitals are hopefully getting now, but it's really about reducing risks. Is it a complete protection? No. Masks, if you're already sick, that helps to kind of keep that contained at some level. But think about when you're wearing a mask, it's not necessarily even just for you, but all of the people that are out there working, all of our essential workers, a lot of these businesses cannot afford to have more people go down sick. Like you've heard probably about the Costco employee and the customer that went viral over this past week. It's about keeping the workers safe so they can continue to do what they need to do. Our supply chains have been spread and stretched so thin because people have been going down with illnesses. So wearing a mask is one of the most compassionate things that you can do right now. If nothing else, it helps to take care of those who might be immune compromised. It helps to keep protecting those who do have to work. And if you're not willing to wear a mask, then I'm sorry, then maybe your ass just needs to stay home. Order shit online or send somebody out who's willing to wear a mask. But that's the case. Is it a 100% proof thing? No. But I mean, honestly, neither are condoms, and we still use those. So let's do our part. So anyway, that is part 1. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope that regardless of the, kind of the side talk or side opinions or whatnot like that, I hope that the tips and the reminders are helpful to you as we start returning to reopening. And just, again, be patient and remember that we are not in this alone. We are all in this together. So be sure to come back next week, Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time. We will hit up part 2. In the meantime, feel free to drop more comments, questions, tips, reminders, things like that, things that you're doing, things that are helping. I would love to keep this conversation going because it's absolutely relevant right now. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and make sure you hit follow or turn on notifications, I should say, so that way you won't miss the next episode and you won't miss these conversations. So have a great rest of your day. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.